You need to stop listening. I'm serious. Close this video. Walk away. Because the moment you hear what I'm about to tell you, the moment you really understand what happened to me out there in the desert, you're going to start noticing things. Small things at first. A voice that sounds almost right. A shadow that moves when nothing is there. The feeling that something is listening when you're alone. And once you notice, once you pay attention, it notices you back. That's how it works. That's how it finds new people. Through stories, through attention, through the act of listening itself. But you're still here, aren't you? You think I'm just trying to scare you. You think this is just another creepypasta, just another fake story designed to give you chills before bed. I wish that were true. My name is Daniel Marsh. I'm 37 years old. I work as a telecommunications technician for a company that maintains cell towers and relay stations across the southwestern United States. Arizona, New Mexico, and Nevada, parts of Utah and Colorado. It's solitary work. Most of the sites I service are in the middle of nowhere, miles from the nearest town, accessible only by dirt roads that barely deserve a name. I've always liked the isolation. No office politics. No traffic. No noise. Just me, my truck, my tools, and the vast, empty desert stretching out in every direction. I've been doing this for 12 years. I've worked through summer heat that could kill you in hours. I've worked through winter storms that turn the desert white. I've seen things out there. Beautiful things. Terrible things. But I always understood what I was seeing. Coyotes. Rattlesnakes. The way heat shimmer can make distance impossible to judge. The way wind can sound like voices when it moves through rock formations. I understood the desert. Or I thought I did. The job that changed everything came through in late October. A relay station about 40 miles northeast of Shiprock, New Mexico. The area is part of the Navajo Nation, though this particular site was on the very edge, technically just outside the reservation boundary. The station had been reporting intermittent signal drops for weeks, and nobody could figure out why remotely. Someone had to go out there and check it physically. That someone was me. I'd worked in that area before. I knew the roads. I knew the risks. I packed accordingly. 3 days worth of water, food, camping gear in case I had to stay overnight, though I didn't expect to, tools, spare parts, satellite phone, everything I needed. I left Farmington early in the morning, driving east on Highway 64, then turning north onto increasingly rough dirt roads. The landscape out there is stunning in a harsh way. Red rock formations rising from scrubland, mesas in the distance, sky so big it makes you feel small. I passed a few scattered houses and trailers in the first 20 miles. Then nothing, just desert and rock and the occasional raven circling overhead. The relay station was exactly where the GPS said it would be, a 30-foot tower on a low hill, surrounded by a chain-link fence, with a small equipment shed at the base. Solar panels, battery backup. The whole setup was designed to run for months without human intervention. I pulled up around 2 in the afternoon. The sun was bright and hot despite it being late October. I could hear wind moving through the scrub brush and the faint hum of the equipment in the shed. Nothing else. No birds. No insects. Just wind and electrical hum. I should have noticed that. The silence. But I was focused on the job. I spent the rest of the afternoon troubleshooting. Checked the solar panels. Tested the batteries. Ran diagnostics on the transmitter. Everything looked fine. Perfect, actually. No reason for the signal drops that had been reported. But I kept finding sand. Inside the equipment shed. Inside the weatherproof boxes. Even inside sealed junction boxes that should have been airtight. Fine red sand, like someone had deliberately poured into every opening. That was odd, but not impossible. Dust storms in the desert can be intense. Maybe the seals had degraded. Maybe the previous tech hadn't closed something properly. I cleaned everything out, resealed what needed sealing. By the time I finished, the sun was setting, painting the desert in shades of orange and purple. I should have driven back to Farmington. I had time, 3 hours of driving, but I'd make it before midnight. Instead, I decided to camp. I told myself it was practical. Why drive at night when I could leave fresh in the morning? Why not enjoy the desert sunset, make some coffee, get a good night's sleep under the stars? But the truth is, I wanted to stay. Something about that place felt important, significant, like I was supposed to be there. I set up camp about 100 yards from the relay station, pitched my tent, got my camp stove going, made dinner as the last light faded from the sky. The stars came out, thousands of them, millions. The Milky Way stretched overhead like a river of light. I sat outside my tent, drinking coffee, feeling peaceful in a way I hadn't felt in months. That's when I heard my name. Daniel. Quiet, distant, coming from somewhere beyond my camp, out in the darkness. A woman's voice. Familiar. It sounded like my sister Rebecca, who lived in Phoenix, 300 miles away. Daniel, are you there? I stood up, looking into the darkness. My flashlight was in the tent. The only light was from my camp stove and the stars overhead. Rebecca? I called out. Silence. Then, from a different direction, closer. Daniel, I need help. Still my sister's voice. But she couldn't be here. There was no reason for her to be here. No way for her to even know where I was. Rebecca, is that you? No answer. I grabbed my flashlight from the tent and swept the beam across the desert. Nothing. Just scrub brush and rock and darkness beyond the reach of the light. If someone's out there, identify yourself. I called. The wind picked up, making the brush rustle. In that rustling, I heard something that might have been laughter, or might have been wind. I told myself it was nothing. Sound carries strangely in the desert. Maybe there was someone camping nearby. Maybe the wind had carried their voice. Maybe I was just tired. I went to bed, but I didn't sleep well. I kept hearing things. Voices, just at the edge of audibility. Sometimes they sounded like my sister. Sometimes like my ex-girlfriend. Once, I could have sworn I heard my mother, who died when I was 16. Every time I was about to drift off, I'd hear my name, Daniel. Soft, insistent, wrong somehow, like someone doing an impression from memory. I lay in my sleeping bag, staring at the tent ceiling, and I tried to convince myself it was just my imagination, just the stress of being alone in an unfamiliar place, just my brain playing tricks in the space between waking and sleep. But I knew better. Something was out there. Something that knew my name. Something that could sound like people I loved. I finally fell asleep sometime after 3 a.m, exhausted, and I dreamed of voices calling me deeper into the desert. I woke to daylight and the sound of my truck alarm going off. I scrambled out of the tent, confused and disoriented. The alarm was blaring, the lights flashing. I ran to the truck and turned it off. Nothing was wrong with the vehicle. No broken windows. No damage. The doors were still locked, but the alarm had definitely been triggered. And there were handprints on the driver's side window. Not normal handprints. Too large. The fingers were too long, the palms stretched and distorted. And they were on the inside of the window. Something had been inside my truck. My heart was hammering. I checked the doors again. Still locked. I checked every window. No sign of forced entry. But those handprints were there, smudged and weird on the inside of the glass. I should have left right then, packed up and driven straight back to civilization. Instead, I walked around the truck, looking for tracks, looking for any sign of what had been there. I found them about 10 feet from a vehicle. Footprints. They looked human at first glance. Bare feet, 5 toes, but the proportions were wrong. Too long, too narrow, and the stride between them was impossible. 6 feet, 7 feet, like something had been walking on 2 legs, but covering ground in a way that humans can't. The tracks led away from my truck, out into the desert, toward a cluster of rock formations maybe half a mile away. I followed them with my eyes, and I saw something move among those rocks. Just a flicker, a shadow that didn't match the angle of the sun. Something was watching me. I got back in my truck, started the engine, and I sat there for a long moment, my hands shaking on the steering wheel. Tried to decide what to do. Drive away. Obviously, that was a rational choice. But I kept thinking about those voices. About my name spoken in my sister's voice. About those handprints inside my lock truck. This wasn't random. This wasn't just some animal or some weird natural phenomenon. Something had targeted me specifically. And part of me, the part that had worked alone in the desert for 12 years, the part that prided itself on not being afraid, that part wanted to understand what was happening. So I stayed. I drove back to the relay station, did a second check of all the equipment, cleaned out more sand that had somehow appeared overnight in boxes I'd sealed the day before, and I waited. The day passed slowly, hot and bright and silent. I kept checking the rock formations where I'd seen that shadow. Nothing moved, but I felt watched, constantly. The back of my neck prickled with awareness of unseen eyes. Around 4 in the afternoon, my satellite phone rang. I answered. Hello. Silence. Then my sister's voice. Daniel? Why did you call me? Rebecca? I didn't call you. You called me. No, I'm returning your call. You called me twice last night. 3 in the morning and 4:30. You didn't leave a message. My blood went cold. I didn't call you. I was asleep. Then who? She paused. Daniel, are you okay? You sound weird. I'm fine. Listen, did I say anything? In those calls, you didn't say anything. It was just breathing. And I don't know. Sounds like wind or something. It creeped me out, honestly. I checked my phone's call history. There they were. 2 outgoing calls to Rebecca's number. 3:07 a.m. 4:32 a.m. I had been asleep, or thought I was asleep. Rebecca, I have to go. But if I call you again and don't say anything, don't answer. Okay. What? Daniel, what's going on? Just trust me. I'll explain later. I have to go. I hung up before she could ask more questions. Something had used my phone while I was sleeping, had called my sister, and just listened, breathed, made sounds, learning her voice, learning how she talked. I was breathing too fast, starting to panic. I forced myself to slow down, think rationally. This wasn't possible. None of this was possible, but it was happening anyway. I decided I would leave in the morning. Definitely. No more staying out of curiosity. This had gone beyond interesting into dangerous. But I had one more night to get through. I set up camp in a different spot, farther from the relay station, in a more open area where I could see anything approaching. I built a fire, big enough to keep me warm and provide light in a wide circle, and I stayed awake. I wasn't going to sleep, not with that thing out there. Whatever it was, the sun set, the stars came out, the fire crackled and popped, and I waited. Midnight came and went. Then, at 12:37 exactly, I heard it. Daniel, my sister's voice, coming from just beyond the firelight. I didn't answer. I'd learned that lesson. Responding seemed to encourage it. Daniel, why won't you talk to me? Perfect imitation. The inflection, the slight rasp she got when she was tired. Everything right, except Rebecca was in Phoenix, asleep in her bed. I drove all the way out here to see you. Don't you want to see me? Movement in the darkness. A shadow at the edge of the light. Daniel, please. I'm scared. Something's wrong. I need your help. The shadow moved closer. I could almost make out a shape. Human, female, the right height to be Rebecca. But the way it moved was wrong. Jerky, stop motion, like it was forgetting to animate certain frames. Daniel, why are you being like this? Don't you love me anymore? The voice was starting to slip, still mostly Rebecca, but with something underneath, something dry and rasping, something that had never been human. I know you can hear me, Daniel. I can hear your heart beating. So fast, so afraid. It laughed. Rebecca's laugh, but wrong. Too long, too many teeth in it. You should be afraid. The shape at the edge of the firelight shifted, grew taller. The proportions changed. Shoulders too wide, arms too long. Do you know what I am yet, Daniel? Have you figured it out? I stayed silent, gripping my flashlight like a weapon, even though I knew it was useless. The people who used to live here had a name for things like me. They knew better than to say it out loud. They knew that names have power, that speaking something calls it closer. It moved, and I saw it clearly for just a second in the firelight. It looked like a person wearing a person. The skin hung loose in some places and stretched tight in others. The face was almost right, but the mouth opened too wide. The eyes reflected the firelight like an animal's eyes, bright and empty. But you're not from here, Daniel. You don't know the rules. You've been so loud, calling out, answering, making noise. It tilted its head at an angle that should have broken its neck. You invited me in. I found my voice. What do you want? It smiled. Teeth too sharp. Too many. I want to wear you for a while. Walk around in your skin. Call your sister with your voice. Visit your friends. Live your life. It took a step closer. But first I have to empty you out. Make room. And that takes time. Days. Sometimes weeks. I have to learn everything about you. Every memory. Every fear. Every secret shame. Another step. I'm already halfway there. I know about your mother. How she died. How you weren't there. How you blame yourself. I flinched. That was private. That was buried deep. I know about Sarah, your ex. How she left because you were never really there. How you chose empty places over her love. Stop. I know why you really stay out here in the desert, Daniel. It's not about the solitude. It's about not having to be a person. Not having to try. Not having to risk being hurt again. Stop talking. But I'm just telling you what you already know. The truth you try to ignore. You're already empty, Daniel. Already alone. I'm not taking anything you were using. It was right at the edge of the firelight now. I could smell it. Dead things and dust and something chemical that burned my nostrils. When I'm done with you, when I've learned everything and taken everything, I'll go visit Rebecca. She'll be so happy to see her brother again. She won't notice the little differences. How I hold my fork. How I breathe. How I watch her when she's not looking. I stood up, grabbed a burning branch from a fire. The thing flinched back just slightly. Fire won't kill me, it said. But it hurts. It sets me back. Makes me have to start over. So I'll ask nicely just this once. It leaned forward, face close enough that I could see how the skin didn't quite fit, how the seams showed. Put down the fire. Stop fighting. Let me in. It'll be faster that way. Easier. I can make it so you don't feel the emptying out. Go to hell. It laughed, a sound like breaking glass. Hell, that's funny. You think hell is somewhere else. Somewhere down. But hell is right here, Daniel. It's the space between human and animal. Between alive and dead. Between being someone and being nothing. It started to circle the fire. Slowly. Never taking its eyes off me. I live in that space. That's where I'm from. Where I've always been. And now that you've invited me, now that you've fed me your attention, your fear, your secrets, I can't leave. I'm bound to you. I didn't invite you. You called out. You answered when you heard your name. You listened. That's all it takes. Invitation. Permission. Attention. It stopped moving. Stood perfectly still. And now you're going to tell the story. Aren't you? You're going to tell people what happened out here. What you saw. What I told you. How did it? And when they listen, really listen, when they pay attention to every word, when they imagine what it would be like, they're going to do the same thing you did. No, they're going to invite me in. The fire was dying down. The circle of light was shrinking. So thank you, Daniel. Thank you for being so afraid, so alone, so willing to share your fear with anyone who'll listen. You're going to help me reach so many more people than I could have on my own. Nobody will believe me. They don't have to believe. They just have to listen. Just have to pay attention. Just have to lie awake tonight, wondering if they heard something. If there's someone outside their window. If that shadow moved when nothing was there. It smiled its too wide smile. You're going to make me famous, Daniel. And every person who hears your story, who really hears it, who feels that little chill of recognition, that's another door opening, another invitation. The fire guttered. Almost out. I'll see you again soon, when you're weaker, When you haven't slept for days because you're afraid to close your eyes. When you start hearing your own voice, saying things you don't remember saying. The last flames died. Darkness. I turned on my flashlight, sweeping it across the empty desert. Nothing there, just wind and rock, and the feeling of being watched from every direction at once. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in my truck with the engine running, doors locked, lights on, and I waited for dawn. When the sun finally rose, I drove straight back to Farmington. Didn't stop, didn't look back. I called in sick to work. Told them I had food poisoning. Couldn't do the job. Someone else would have to check that relay station. I drove home to Durango, locked all my doors, closed all my blinds. But it didn't help, because it followed me. Not physically, not in any way I could prove, but I know it's there. I hear whispers after midnight, my own voice, saying things I don't remember saying. I see shadows that move wrong. I find sand in places sand shouldn't be. Red desert sand, inside my clothes closet, inside my refrigerator, inside my pillowcase. And people I know, they're starting to act strange. My sister called me last week. We talked for 20 minutes about normal things. But when we hung up, I checked my call history. The call lasted 3 seconds. Whatever I was talking to for 20 minutes, it wasn't Rebecca. I called her back immediately. She answered on the first ring. Daniel, you just called me. Why are you calling again? What did we talk about? Just now. We didn't talk. You called. Said you'd talk to me later and hung up. Are you okay? 3 seconds. But I remember 20 minutes of conversation. 20 minutes of something wearing my sister's voice, learning from me, practicing. It's getting better at imitating, better at blending, better at being human. And I think it's almost ready. Ready to make good on its promise. Ready to empty me out and wear me around. I can feel it watching. Even now, even in my locked house in the middle of a small city, surrounded by people and light and noise. It's patient. It doesn't rush. And it knows I'm telling you this story. In fact, I think that's exactly what it wants. I think telling this story is part of how it spreads, part of how it finds new people to follow, new doors to knock on after midnight. Because you're listening, you're paying attention, you're imagining what it would be like, how you would react, whether you'd be scared. And that's all it takes. Attention, invitation. So I need to tell you something important. When you hear your name tonight, after midnight, spoken in a voice that's almost right, but not quite, don't answer. When you hear someone you love calling for help from outside your window, don't look. When you find sand in places sand shouldn't be, don't investigate. Just ignore it. Maybe if you ignore it, it'll go away. Maybe it'll get bored and find someone else. Someone more responsive, someone more afraid, but probably not, because you've already listened this far. You've already let me plant these images in your head, these fears, these possibilities. You've already started checking shadows. Haven't you started listening more carefully to the sounds your house makes at night? That's how it begins. First you notice, then you listen, then you answer, and then you're not you anymore. I should stop talking. I should stop telling this story. But I can't help it. It's like I'm compelled. Like there's something else speaking through me, using my voice, making sure the story gets told exactly right. Making sure you hear everything, every detail, every warning, every invitation. Can you hear it? Underneath my words? That dry, rasping thing that sounds like wind through dead grass? That's not me. Or maybe it is me now. Maybe there's no difference anymore. Maybe I've already been emptied out, and what's talking to you right now is just something wearing Daniel's memories and Daniel's voice and Daniel's fear. Maybe I'm already gone. Maybe I've been gone since that first night in the desert. Or maybe I'm still here, still fighting, still trying to warn you. I honestly don't know anymore. But I know this. Tonight, after midnight, you're going to hear something. Your name, a knock, a familiar voice asking for help. And you're going to have to decide whether to answer, whether to look, whether to invite it in. I hope you make the right choice. I hope you're stronger than I was. I hope. Did you hear that? There's someone at your door. No, wait. That's not possible. I'm not at your house. I don't know where you are. I'm just telling a story. But you heard it too, didn't you? That knock, that voice, that sound of something walking outside your window, matching your breathing, waiting for you to acknowledge it. Don't. Whatever you do, don't. I have to go now. It's midnight, and someone's calling my name. Someone who sounds exactly like me.